Got it. So first of all, the fire exits are over there. Please turn off your cell phones if you have any cell phones. Now, too many candy wrappers. Unwrap those candy wrappers now. Don't forget to tip your bartender out there. He's a starving artist just like you are. I'm so happy to see so many people that I know and love. So, I wanted to talk about why we are all here, which is dramatic needs. So, before we start the show, let's talk about why we're here. Dramatic Need is a UK-based charity that sends volunteers in the creative arts to South Africa and now also Rwanda to lead workshops for children living in underprivileged rural communities. Volunteers create their own workshops based on their expertise, and they run the workshop in 1 to 2 schools during their stay. And they usually go from 3 weeks to 3 months. Dramatic Need currently has links with 19 schools in both South Africa and Rwanda. These schools are in some of the most impoverished areas in both these countries. While the schools do have their own arts curriculum, but the reality is that they lack the funds to actually carry out their syllabi. And that's where Dramatic Need comes in. They bring in professional artists to augment the arts curriculum that the schools already have. Dramatic Need makes an important distinction between augmenting these school programs and importing outside theater, music, and art into the country, which was a huge draw for me because I didn't want to be a missionary. The workshops are not about teaching the students how to do American-style puppetry or about proper movement technique. They're about opening up a child's own creativity, utilizing local art forms wherever possible. The goal is to empower children who may have very little in life to take ownership of their talents and abilities and promote self-expression through a creative outlet. Many of these kids only learn to express themselves through anger and violence. Volunteers help the children to foster self-confidence and expression in a non-violent way. Dramatic Need is also about cultural exchange. The artists volunteering often learn as much as the students they teach. This is what Shannon Brinkley, who is currently on staff over in Viljoensgroen, which is the headquarters in South Africa where Dramatic Need is working. This is what she had to say about the program. And she knows a lot about working in arts non-for-profit. She's worked all over the country for the past 3 years. Dramatic Need has enabled its youth to open up about the tragedy that surrounds them. All the youth I have come across in South Africa are dying for someone to hear their plight. Yet they don't always have the voice to tell it with. In addition to that, these youth tend to be plagued with mythologies and taboos that prevent them from being able to express exactly what they see, hear, and feel on a daily basis. Dramatic Need not only has added to the voice that these youth have, but also plays an extremely important role in allowing the students to be imaginative, creative, and silly. The way the schools operate in rural areas of South Africa, students are taught to think in a very black and white way. There are rules they must follow, and if they're broken, they are punished, often by means of the hand. Dramatic Need offers an alternative by allowing the students to think in a situation where the premise is not based on right or wrong, yes or no, etc. The students eat this opportunity like candy. I will be going to South Africa, not Rwanda, where there are reported the most AIDS cases in the world. There are 5.7 million people currently affected with AIDS there out of a population of 49 million. And specifically, I'm going to the Free State, to a town called Viljoensgroen, where in the Free State there's a 33.5% AIDS rate, which is growing every year. It's a province with the second highest AIDS rate in the country, and it is still very racially segregated. The high rate of AIDS and HIV has many implications beyond the obvious. HIV causes many children to be orphaned. These children often live with relatives who have little understanding of AIDS education. It is a common misconception that HIV is like the common cold. So these affected orphans are often treated like lepers by their adopted guardians, not touched, hugged, or loved. There is also a high incidence of abuse, neglect, rape, malnourishment, and traffic accidents are a huge cause of death. From October 16th to December 4th, myself along with a dear friend of mine, Harlan Rosenson, who's a fellow actor living out in New Jersey, will be working with Dramatic Need. We're going to be doing several things while we're there. During the day, we're going to be leading workshops in schools. All of our workshops have an emphasis on storytelling, using puppetry as a tool, not as a technique, to help these kids open up. We're in the process of creating curriculum, and I would be very happy to talk with any of you after the show about any ideas you may have. In the evenings, Harlan and I will be working with 30 high school students to put on the Children's Monologues. The Children's Monologues is an adaptation of over 250 original testimonies gathered from students that Dramatic Need has worked with over the past 3 years. These kids were asked to write about the best day of their lives and the worst day of their lives. And several famous writers, most notably Lynn Nottage, who wrote Movement at the Goodman a year or two ago, have contributed their talents in adapting the testimonies into 12 monologues. The play is being put on as a part of a worldwide event like World AIDS Day on November 14th. The play will be put on simultaneously in London and South Africa. In London, the play is being directed by Danny Boyle, who also directed Slumdog Millionaire. In South Africa, it's being directed by myself and Harlan. The proceeds from the play will go toward building a community arts center and Dramatic Need's home base at Bill Jones Room. It will have theater spaces, a music recording space and studio, and a craft space equipped with several sewing machines. When the space is not being used by children, it will be used and open to the community. My goals for directing the project are not to produce a polished product, and I say directing because really we're working with the kids, and we may actually use some kids to direct some of the monologues for us. The goal is to make the arts sustainable there. My goals are to enable students to take ownership of the project and to work together as a community to create something that we are all proud of. We have formatted the show to involve as many kids as possible. For this reason, we'll be using shadow puppetry in the show. This way we can involve not just kids who are comfortable in front of an audience, but also those who wish to express their artistic talents in drawing puppets, and those who would be more comfortable behind the screen. Shadow puppetry has also become an important tool in involving some of the original writers of the monologues, many of which have stage fright, giving them a chance to tell their stories. This format will allow these kids to tell their stories in a way that they're comfortable with. After the production, Harlan and I will spend an additional 2 weeks working with children in creches or orphanages. These children are aged 1 to 6, and we're very, very excited to make a positive impact so early in their lives. You might ask why a Jewish girl from Chicago is heading to South Africa to work with kids. Well, here's why. I truly believe that theater is a unique form of social action. I think that art throughout time has been instrumental in making the world a better place, and I believe that it will continue to do that. This is because art can communicate beyond words. It tells a story from one heart to another. I was recently at the Museum of Modern Art, the Museum of Contemporary Art and Modern Wing with my mom, and if you know my mom, you know that she spends a very long time in museums, a painfully long time. As a visual artist herself, she has a lot to say, much of which goes over my head. So this particular time I asked her, I don't understand this. Where's the story? What is it supposed to say? And she said, there is no story. It's about how someone feels. It's about understanding how someone feels. I believe that if we can express how we feel, we can love ourselves. If we can understand how other people feel, we can love others. And if we can spend our time loving others instead of hating others, the world will be a much better place. Thank you.
Yeah. Enjoy the show.